Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl JoJo, and I'm here with the review for Married at First Sight. This is season 10. I think it's episode 14. If not, I'll have it right at the bottom. You know how it goes. Yeah, so I know this review is a day late, but hey, what can I say? I was having a really good day yesterday. I took my braids out, as you can tell. Okay, so if you don't know this about JoJo, because some of y'all are new, I don't do hair if I don't have anywhere to go. So, all my naturals out there, y'all know we do not waste a flat twist just sitting around the house. So, it is twisted and it's going to stay up under here until I decide to either do some shipped orders or some DoorDash. But other than that, it's gonna stay. It's gonna stay. But I took my braids out and I went jogging. Talked to my grandma for 2 hours. Talked to my homegirl for an hour. Then I got on Instagram Live and did yoga with my girl, my LS, who is doing yoga online for people who are in the house. Alex C, the yogi. I'm gonna put her information at the bottom so y'all can follow her on Instagram if you want, and y'all can do yoga every week with her. It's all beginners. And what else did I do? I made a big old pot of red beans, a big old pot of cabbage, and I got down on that. I was having me too good of a day. I did not want to commit to sitting down and watching 2 hours of Married at First Sight or reviewing it for another hour. I just didn't want to do it. The day was going too good. So finally around 9:30, I was like, girl, now you gonna have to watch this show. So I sat down and watched it, and it wasn't too bad actually. It wasn't too bad. I actually kind of enjoyed it. So let's talk about it. So we'll start with Jessica and Austin as we normally do because at this point we're only here for them. So Jessica and Austin go out to dinner, and this is where we find out that Austin is going to be doing quite a bit of traveling for work. I'm going to try to get to the issues fast for this review. He's going to be doing quite a bit of traveling for work. Jessica is a little put off by this, and I don't blame Jessica. I mean, anybody would be a little concerned about their new husband constantly being away because you're going to think about how do we grow closer if you're going to be gone a lot. But it seems like he's going to be gone for some days at a time within the month, so up to 2 weeks out of the month. But it could be 10 days straight, just depending on what may be going on in the business. But the way that Austin was talking, the 10 days doesn't happen often. It kind of, he knows in advance when it's going to happen. And on those days, Jessica decided that she would kind of compensate by taking the late shift since her husband won't be home, and they can just kind of do it that way, which I'm glad she was willing to compromise and they were willing to find a solution that worked for them. That's what you have to do in a marriage. But I understood her concern. I didn't think her concern was silly, especially when you've been single for a long time. And if you're like a scary single, some people are like, it's like regular singles and then there's scary singles. And those are the ones that like, they got all kind of locks on the door, they got all kind of they just are very, very nervous when they're home by themselves, like especially in the evening time. You kind of want somebody, you're glad to have somebody around that's could be a source of protection for you if something were to go down, or at least y'all could fight together, and ward the burglar off. So, you feel relieved to finally get it, and then to know that it's going to be gone several nights at a time. You're just like, well, oh man, thought you was gonna be here so I could get a little less scary. But they're gonna compromise and they're gonna work it out. They're gonna be fine. So then the love thing comes up again, and I just really wanted Jessica to come up off it because I didn't want her to start finding things that were wrong in her relationship. He's clearly stated that he's going to say it when he's ready, but he's never felt like this about anybody. He's definitely moving to that point. And Jessica brings it up again. Austin is kind of hesitant. And then when the therapist comes, who is an agent of chaos when it comes to this relationship, I don't want her messing with Jessica and Austin anymore. She needs to just put her focus on the folks that's having the real problems. The ones y'all didn't match up right. Go talk to them and quit coming up in these happy people's household trying to mix it up. So the therapist comes, and when the therapist comes, Jessica reveals that their feelings are not the same. One person's feeling the love, the other person isn't, but she's not really willing to say it if he's not going to say it. And she asked why, and then I started giving her the side eye. I was like, is she about to mix it up? But she didn't really mix it up that bad, because Jessica reveals it's hard for her to say it because she would be vulnerable, and she doesn't want to feel like she was the only one, and that speaks to her vulnerability. But she does end up saying it. Austin doesn't say it back, but he does say, and I was glad. I was glad that he didn't feel pressured into saying it and not really meaning it, because that's important. He said, I haven't felt like this about anybody, and I hope you understand that it's going to take me a little bit more time, but I'm definitely in it for you, and I definitely feel very strongly about you. And that works. And when they meet later on at the beach, they have this moment where they're kind of going into their past and their teenage years. And Jessica reveals that she wished she would have said, I love you more to people in her life, like her grandmother and her family members. And they have an emotional moment together. And Austin is very comforting. But you get to see more about why the word I love you does mean a lot to her, because she feels like she hasn't said it enough, but she also wants it reciprocated. But I think that reciprocation is definitely going to come, and I think it's going to come sooner rather than later. And she says, I like doing life with you, which I thought was sweet. So that's what's going on with them. Let's move on to who y'all want to talk about. Let's get Katy and Derrick out the way real quick, and then we go save the other folks for the end. Actually, let me do Brandon and Taylor. So Brandon and Taylor, they're doing better. They're doing a lot better. They're going on dates. Taylor has a new wig. Yes, I'm so happy about it. But they're spending a lot of time together. They're getting along, and I think we're all relieved. I think we all collectively breathed a sigh of relief when we saw them getting along. So they go out on a date, and this is where Taylor reveals to Brandon that if he wants to move back home, he can move back home, because Brandon was dropping hints about how it's awkward not living together. And so he's like, so do I have to move back into the spare bedroom, or like what is it? And Taylor's like, you could come back in the room if you want to come back in the room, because things have been going well. So he does end up doing that. Also, they end up spending some time together playing basketball, going back to Brandon's hometown area and playing basketball with one another, just getting caught up on each other's past. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, when I get to that second hour of the show, I kind of put it on a low fast forward. It's a long, 2 hours is a long time to just sit and watch the show. I do what I can. I give you an hour and 20 minutes. I do what I can. So I'm not going to say I heard every single thing that they were talking about, but I know that they were playing together, and she was getting to know a little bit more of Brandon's background and where he came from. And she's starting to get a better understanding of him. And it's nice to get to see Brandon a little bit better outside of what they've been through, which is, they needed that. So good. They leave the basketball playing, holding hands, which I thought was extremely cute. Brandon has some bedroom confessions when they get back. He thought it was Taylor trying to scoop up on him in the bed, but it was actually that big old dog, which, child, them dogs in the bed. And then that dog is hairy. I mean, I know y'all love y'all dogs, so okay, fine. But Taylor did end up getting in bed with him, and he's telling her how beautiful she looks, and he always thinks she looks beautiful. And I was like, Brandon, I know what you're trying to do. And Taylor's really appreciative of that, and they end up, looking like they're about to get into a little cuddle session. Maybe more. I don't know. Not my business. They married, so do what you do. But it's nice to see the two of them getting back along. I gotta say, I'm eating humble pie. I did not think they were going to be able to pull it back together. Did y'all? I didn't see it. Okay, so let's talk Katy and Derrick. Katy and Derrick meet with the counselor, and they start to talk about just the situations that they've had as of late and where all of that is coming from. They both talk about the fact that they come from divorced homes, which I understand. I come from one as well. And because they come from divorced homes, they both grew up very quickly, but they internalized it differently. Derrick grew up quickly, and he kind of held on to his inner child, always wanting to release that. That's why he has all of these dreams and these goals and this kind of ambition. And Katy took her inner child and kind of just buried it. I was there. I grew up quick. I had to make sure that my parents were, I guess, not arguing to the point where they were going to hurt each other or things were going to get violent. And I've seen that happen with children. And I just think we have to remember, as adults, even when we don't think they notice, they do notice. And it's not fair for us to put our adult problems on our children. It is something me and my mother have discussed because, like them, when my mom got divorced, I think my mom was about 30 when she got divorced, 30, 31. And my siblings were young. I was a little bit older than them. I was already in high school when my mom got divorced. And I was her parent. You know, I was her person. I was her go-to. I helped her with the kids. I helped them get ready. I would feed them. I would dress them. I would go pick them up because the daycare was near our neighborhood. I would walk to go pick them up. I would just whatever my mom needed as far as help with childcare or household duties, I would do it. And anything that was going on in her life that affected her would ultimately affect me because somebody had to look out for the kids, if that makes sense. And so we've talked about it. We've gotten past it. But it does kill a certain part of you, depending on how you internalize it. So I understood where Katy was coming from. Of course, she cries because Katy's a crier. And she says it's really sad that she buried all of that. And what's even sadder is that she took how she felt about her inner child and she put that off on her husband. And maybe she didn't realize she was doing it at the time, but that part was sad too. And Derrick, again, he's supportive. Okay, he tells her, I want to be here for you as you work through that, and I think it's going to get better for you, but I definitely want to be here for you as you go through it. And Katy, again, it looks like you're going to show out on Derrick next episode. I want you to stop it. I really want you to stop sabotaging your relationship. You have a good guy. He is probably receiving fan mail from women who are willing to risk it all. All right? If I was a little bit younger, I would risk it. But y'all married, I would respect y'all's marriage. I'm talking about if I found out he was single. But he's a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. And you're never going to meet perfection. Never. You're not going to meet perfection. He may have some things about him you don't like, but he really is genuinely a good guy. He is a romantic. And I've been looking for a romantic all my life. And you got one. So cut it out. So moving on. They go to Derrick's and they're in the garage, looks like, and they are showing his senior photo, you know, that one that a lot of us have with the black on and this haircut that looks like a mushroom. And also going into some of the poetry that he has written. And it's a very deep poem. It talks about love and losing it and how it feels. And Katy is like, I'm at a loss for words because for somebody who's never been in love, that poem sure is deep. And Derrick says, well, yeah, it is deep, but, you know, I just kind of personified what I thought love felt like. You can visualize and you can see it, and therefore you feel like you know it and you can feel it, and so that's what I did. And Katy is just like, I don't know, because that sounds like somebody who's been in love. And, you know, I'm just like, shut up, Katy. All right? You can write about what you want to write about. If the boy say he ain't never been in love, then he ain't never been in love. He's just a good visualizer. The poem was quite deep, but I bet you believe now he could write that Christmas song now, don't you? Okay? He made a believer out of you today. But hopefully they're going to be fine. We're going to see what happens more with them on the next episode. Now, I want to move to our problem children. Let's start with Mike and Mika. So, Mika, girl, I'm going to give her a couple of these. I'm going to give her a couple of these as the review goes on. That was just the first one. Because I want to say that I was really proud of Mika this episode. From beginning to end, she did exactly what I have been wanting her to do since episode 3. Now the reason why I don't say episode 1 and 2 is because episode 1 and 2... and maybe even episode 3, right before they went to Panama, okay, in the conversation that happened in the hotel, I never really had an issue with Mika addressing Michael about his lies, because at that time, I was kind of with her. If you're lying about it, then it needs to be pulled out. My frustration came out with Mika around those middle episodes because of the way that she communicated. See, Twitter got it. Over here, we don't really come to some understandings, but Twitter, we be here. So one person on Twitter said that Mika is allowing herself to be gaslit and it's making her look like an angry black woman. And I was just like, yes, yes. And I started to kind of see that. And I knew she was being gaslit. I knew it. But because certain things exist, and I know because I've been here many times, that's why I look at Mika the way that I do, because she reminds me of myself. Because there are certain preconceived notions that exist, you have to be very careful to not allow yourself to play into them. And I know it's not fair, y'all ain't got to tell me. I know it's not, but it's just kind of how certain things are laid out. I know it's not fair though. And so when I saw her, like, how she would get in an argument and how she would, how her face would be like real hard sometimes, I would be like, oh man, I know how this is making her look, but I also know exactly how she feels. So it was kind of like, I don't know, like I just wanted her demeanor and her communication to go a little bit smoother. That's what I really wanted for her, because I knew how it was making her look on television, right? But I also knew that there was stuff going on. She probably was being gaslit, and now we can see it quite clearly. What I loved about Mika this episode was that Mika, her demeanor was calm throughout. She didn't really she raised her voice when she talked to the producers, but she wasn't really raising her voice. She wasn't cutting anybody off. She wasn't doing over talking. She wasn't doing any of that she probably would do, like normally when she would get real upset. She was just kind of letting him dig himself a hole, and I was so proud of her. She almost was smiling. And I don't care. I know some of y'all don't like Mika. I don't care, because the point that she has been trying to prove all these episodes is coming out. And it's been coming out since that whole yoga thing. And it really was coming out before that. But I don't care. I don't care if y'all don't like her. I was proud of her this episode. So, Mika's sitting on the bed and she tells Michael, we need to talk finances. So at first I thought this was going to be another got you moment. I was like, okay, Mika, what you got going on here? And Michael sits down and she was like, okay, so I have my pay stubs. And I'll show you mine. And I don't think any of this is unrealistic, because every other couple has talked finances. Every other couple, what they do for a living. There's nothing wrong with that. That's stuff you talk about when you get married, y'all. Well, really before, but that's common. So she pulls up her pay stub. She shows them the numbers. This is what I'm bringing to the table. What about you? Michael says, I got an offer letter. And I said, an offer letter? I don't really have a pay stub since I just started, so here's the offer letter, and this is how much I'm going to be making after taxes and all of that, and this is this, and then he's showing something on the phone, and she's just like, that's not really adding up, though. These numbers are not adding up to these numbers. I don't really understand. And she's talking just like I'm talking, y'all. I'm actually way more animated. Like, she was so calm with it. I was like, yes, Mika, this is it. Right? So Michael was just like, yeah, well, I just feel like because I don't have a pay stub, I'm done talking about it. I don't think we need to keep talking about it. We need to table it until I get a pay stub. And Mika was just like, no, I don't see why we need to table it, because I don't know of any employer that's going to give you an offer letter with your money and your salary after taxes. Nobody does that. And even if they do, how do they know if you're going to claim 1, 2, 3? How do they know what deductions are coming out? I said, see. You done tried to play a player. And what I mean by that is Mika works with numbers in her job, so she knows what adds up and what doesn't. So she ain't feeling it. So Michael is getting frustrated with her line of questioning, and Mika says in her confessionals, I just don't think Michael is used to somebody like me holding him accountable. I said, he not, girl. He not. And so she was like, okay, can you just write down your salary? Did y'all see when Michael jerked that paper out of her hand and started writing it down, and Mika still didn't have a reaction? She was just like, Oh my God. Y'all, I was here for it. I was so here for it. Okay, let me get myself. let me get right. I'm moving the camera. I'm shaking the camera and whatnot. Okay, so then, he writes it down, and again, she tells him, you know what? This isn't adding up, and I'm getting frustrated. And then she says, she takes her microphone now, and she said, Montre, I know we said we weren't going to talk off camera. I was just like, who is Montre? Did somebody move in with them? But Montre is the producer, and she gets up and says that he's a liar. He's been lying. She's asked him to stop lying. He keeps on lying. I don't want to be with a liar. Do y'all want to be with a liar? If y'all want to be with a liar, y'all can have him. Oh, Y'all, I rewound this scene. That's how much I was here for it. And so the producer's just like, well, why don't you just go tell him that? She was like, I'm not telling him anything. I've already told him what I need from him, and he's still lying. So you all need to tell him. And that's the thing. Them producers, they know what they doing. See, y'all the ones that got Taylor cussed out. Fooling around with Brandon. She just said she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. He's not listening. He's not getting it. Meanwhile, Michael's, standing over there just shaking his head like, oh, she's so wrong. No, you're so wrong because you're lying. So later on when they get with the therapist, aka the agent of chaos, she's telling them that they need to work on certain hurdles with their honesty. Tell me what's going on with that. Mika brings up the job situation. Mika brings up the fact that she's asked for honesty. He wants me to be vulnerable. I will not be vulnerable until he's honest. Like, somebody has to make the first step. Like, something has to happen. And did y'all see when she tried to hold his hand? Like, when she was asking him about the salary, I actually forgot about that part. See, she was trying to give you a little romance while she put you on blast. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm tickled. Okay. I'm here. So, Michael reveals, that because he was adopted and he grew up without his mother, it seems like he became used to making up certain kind of stories because you don't want to. Now, y'all, correct me if I'm wrong, but was he saying that his mom was not the best person? Because he said you begin to create narratives and you don't want to say certain things about your mother because that's the woman who gave birth to you. So you don't want to ever say bad things. So were there bad things about his mother that maybe he kind of sweeps under the rug, and then that story led to another story, and that story led to another story until he was basically he had weaved together the life that he wanted, even though that wasn't actually the life that he lived. And that's what he would tell people about. And he's upset about it. He begins to cry. And Mika, she does get closer to him to try to be a source of comfort. And she does say that this makes a lot of sense because I didn't know that he was bullied so much when he was adopted. I didn't know that those things went on with him. But it makes sense that he would continue to not be honest with me because dishonesty has worked for him in the past, and it's kind of been what has gotten him through. And I'm not trying to be unsentimental to that, you guys. I promise you I'm not. But at what point is it fair to Mika that he has a problem with whatever life he lived and he was bullied because of it? At what point is that fair to the new wife that you have? Why do those problems need to fall on her shoulders, especially problems extreme as lying about what you do for a living, because eventually that's dangerous, right? Finances are a big reason for divorce. So that's very, very dangerous. It's no different than Katy and Derrick. I don't think Derrick should be responsible for the problems that Katy has with her inner child. Now, he wants to be there for her, and that's fine, but Katy still is going to have to pull it together to where she's not going off on her husband because of her own mental issues. That's why you need to try to come to people as whole as you can, child. Go get that therapy early. But with Michael, I just don't think it was fair for him to come on this show after he's weaved a lie and presented it to Mika as a perfect husband, because that's not what it is. And nobody's perfect, but you know what I mean. So Michael says he still wants to continue in the marriage, but if I were the producers and the experts, I would have pulled the plug on Michael. I wouldn't have allowed him to stay because you haven't been honest about who you are, and we matched you based on what you told us, and you're not really that person. So we like you, but you need to go get the help because it's not fair to her at this point. But they gonna stay together, child. They gonna keep on wasting our time, like I said. Mika also has a conversation with his his sister, aunt, cousin, his sister, and they talk about who Michael is, and she talks about how, Michael definitely has a lot of issues. He did get bullied a lot about being adopted, and so he may be lying to cover up some of those feelings that he has and some of the things that he dealt with, and Mika says she understands that now and she wish she would have known earlier. And I didn't like that the sister kind of encourage Mika to just kind of stick it out and just kind of work with it. I feel like that's something maybe you could work on if y'all were just dating. But in a marriage, I don't know. Like, he would have to go and get some help because I don't know. Like, if you've been doing it for so long, is it something that you can just turn off? Is it a behavior that you can just turn off? I don't know if I see him turning that off so quickly if he's been doing it this whole time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a lot to ask of a person. I do. But y'all let me know what y'all think because I might be thinking about it wrong, but that's just how I feel. So we move on. Okay, let's just move on. Lastly, we got Mindy and Zach. And of course, I saved them for last. So, again, kudos to Mindy. Okay, I want to give her applause for finally doing what needed to be done. Should have been pulled a long time ago by the experts, in my opinion, but Mindy did it. And what happened was Mindy was explaining to her friends that her and Zach were spending time together. Her and Zach were getting closer. She was still going to try. And her friends were asking the same question a friend should ask. Why? He's not worthy. He's not worth it. He's been lying to you. He looks like he's going to continue lying to you. Why do you want to continue doing stuff with this man who is hurting you? And they just don't get it. Then you got Lindsay involved, and the friend accurately called her, a non-trustworthy B word, which was accurate and true. And they get into a conversation where Zach revealed what he had over Mindy's head, which was the fact that her boyfriend was going to pick her up from the airport, which he should have, seeing all this stuff that went on. And Mindy said she turned the ride down, that she said, no, you can't pick me up. And Zach said he had known about it and been holding it against her this whole time because he thought that the boyfriend came to pick her up. And the friend says, you know what? I did mention that to somebody, and I mentioned it to Lindsay when her non-trustworthy behind. So again, we've been waiting for Lindsay at the door. Like, I wouldn't mind. I'm not saying I don't condone violence, but I wouldn't mind if Mindy's friends jumped Lindsay if that's what they felt like they needed to do. I'm not suggesting y'all do it, but if you felt like it, I wouldn't be mad because Lindsay has caused a lot of chaos inside of this marriage and this relationship, and Zach participated. So, once Mindy finds that out, she confronts Zach about it and was like, you lied to me about the fact that you heard this from a person who knew me and I didn't know that you knew them and all of this. He say, she say. No, Lindsay told you. And you lied to me about it. Zach doesn't really have much to say, but Mindy has a lot to say. And she basically tells him, I don't want to be with anybody I don't trust. I don't want to be with anybody who will lie to me to my face, which you have done multiple times when I gave my heart to you. I was just like, oh, Lord, not the heart, Mindy. And I believe that. I believe that when she said it. And she said, I no longer want to be in this marriage with you. It's not going to work. Zach is stunned. He can't believe that somebody wouldn't want to be with good old Zach. And he don't got much to say. He packed his little raggedy duffel bag and leave. Shout out to living single. And he took them dogs with him, which I'm glad, because that apartment looks like it stinks. It looked like it smelled like dog in there. And y'all know what dogs smell like, so don't tell me you don't know what that smells like. I know you do. So he leaves. And when they talk to the expert, Mindy just kind of lays it out that she wasn't feeling it. She didn't appreciate it. She thought this process would be different. But it's been nothing but lies, and she's very, very hurt by it. But she feels confident that she made the right decision, and she's going to move forward, and good for her. I hope her ex-boyfriend hit her up again. And I hope she took that ride, literally and figuratively, from the airport. Zach, I fast forwarded through most of Zach's part because I knew it was going to be the same thing. I felt like there was still this connection and that we were still going to we were spending this time together. And I never expected it to go, shut up. I don't want to hear any more of what you got to say. So Zach is gone. I hope this whole relationship is over. They better not try to convince them to be back together. I don't want to see anything like that. I hope Mindy finds the one for her, and I really do think she will. And just keep stepping your confidence up, baby girl. You are you have a nice spirit about you. And I think that you're going to find that right person for you. Zach, you can kick rocks. You can do what you do, baby. I don't really care. Y'all like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you thought about the episode. I'll see you for the next one. Bye.